We are at number 35 of our top 50 greatest players of all time list. And on that spot, we have Vasyl Ivanchuk, born in 1969 in the Soviet Union, in what is nowadays the Ukraine, which makes him 51 years old at the time of recording. Peter, Ivanchuk has probably been around for most of our chess following life. Do you feel we rank him properly here?
Generally, yes. He's a person that's a bit hard to quantify, right? Because he's kind of a special character. If you look at his World Championships record, he's lost a World Championship match, but it was like the FIDE Knockout World Championship where he ended up losing a match to Ponomarev, right? What do you call it? From the same country, right? He beat the reigning champion Vichy Anand in the semifinal and put an end to Vichy's reign at that point as the world champion. But then he ended up losing to Ponomarev, very surprisingly in a way. And that has somehow been Chugi's career in a nutshell. He does the difficult parts and then he finishes the less sort of fails at the less difficult ones. If you look at his world ranking, he was number 2 in the world, but for short spells. But basically, I mean, his main claim to fame is that he's been around in the absolute top for a really long time. And if you look at a 20 years average, he's the 10th highest player ever. So he's really been at the top level for really a long time. Also, you see his peak rating is over 2.8 according to Sonas and such. So, I mean, it's an incredible talent who has played with everybody. He's won tournaments ahead with everybody, but he seems to sort of falter at the important moments towards world championships and such. I mean, he had some fascinating but unfortunate loss against Yusupov, for instance, the candidates, maybe when he was supposed to peak and things like that. And you can also see that, well, he's won a match against Vichy, but not when it was the crucial moment and things like that. And somehow he becomes a bit of a odd and unfortunate character, but with an incredible talent for the game.
So he lacks a bit of clutchness in these match situations, but he does have very, very real achievements. Because I was also wondering a bit going into this, do we overrate him because of the quirky personality, because he's widely considered a genius? But if you look at his record, like he wins Linares at age 21 ahead of Kasparov, and he just has stunning results over very much at least 2 decades. No, when did he crush this Sofia tournament? That was 2000. I can't remember. 2009.
No, but I mean, well, we grew up more or less in the same environment, and Ivanchuk was a huge star then and was seen as one of the very legitimate contenders and one who could actually, on his best days, outplay anybody, including Kasparov, as we will soon see. And no, I mean, it wasn't at all obvious he was not the strongest player of his generation. He looked like maybe the biggest talent of his generation, but it turned out to be Anand who, let's say, won this duel, and Gelfand who managed to actually get incredibly close to the crown. But we have rated Gelfand a bit lower here on our rankings. It could have been different, basically, I would say. But I mean, Ivanchuk was so good at that point, and also had this sort of durability that was always part of the conversation and such. But yeah, it's debatable. I agree.
Yeah, he did very recently, just to show his pure class. When was it? 2016? He just crushes this World Rapid Chess Championship after we thought he wasn't that active anymore, and already, deep into his 40s.
That's true. No, it was sort of very surprising. And no, I mean, again, it shows his class. He can just pop up and do things. And when things works for him, I mean, he's basically an unstoppable force. But this happens too rarely. And to have it to happen through a full tournament, or especially a full World Championship cycle, there has never been the stability. And that's why, well, he's not, he could have been considerably higher if things has turned out better for him. He's been a bit more stable or lucky or whatever you would call it, right? But wasn't the case.
I'm also not sure this might be my opening geekness speaking. He's always been considered as completely unpredictable and able to play any opening at any point, and being a bit of an encyclopedia. which I think is fair, but it also has to mean that he never specialized and went deeply into one area, no, which I'm not sure if it helped or hurt him.
He was a very difficult opponent. I mean, well, I used to be Anand's second for quite some years when he had a rivalry there also with Chucky. And I remember preparing for him in the Bilbao 2008, just before Vichy had this important World Championship match with Kramnik. And, well, I methodically looked through Ivanchuk's games with Black from the last 1 or 2 years, and I wrote down on a piece of paper which opening he has played. And I think I wrote down 16 different openings. And obviously he played number 17 the day after and such. He's completely able to do everything. And I think also, I mean, there was this famous quote by Ivanchuk when Kasparov sort of finished his career, and he said, well, I have done everything there is to do in chess. And Ivanchuk said, well, you haven't played the French. I mean, well, it looks like he will find his own challenges. I mean, why should you play the French? There is better openings. But, well, that would be Kasparov's sporting perspective. Ivanchuk had a sort of weird, a more quirky, or more interesting perspective on it. And I agree with you that lacking this rationality, maybe also optimizing results by learning openings better and such, probably has hurt his career. But, well, players are what they are, have to sort of optimize within that framework. But Ivanchuk is more fascinating than sort of well-tuned, right?
Yeah. We should also throw in that I don't know the statistics in front of me, but I recall that he's led the Ukrainian teams on occasion to great heights as well. When was this? Calvia? There was 04 or something? I
think you're right. Yeah, they had a surprising win there and such.
Yeah,
and,
the Ukrainian team won, and I think it was a complete rock on board one, just smashing everything, not losing games. So he had many different facets, and yeah, his raw skills, I think, are not debatable.
No, not at all. Let's look at what he does to Kasparov. And also, he's not doing it to a particularly old or over-the-hill Kasparov. It's basically peak Kasparov, right?
91 is prime nasty Kasparov, yeah.
And a very young Chucky. I mean, this is, well, it looks as talented as you get, right? Yeah, so even Bishop B5 is a bit early.
The opening ahead of his time. I'm not a specialist on this, but he puts this Orochi stuff up.
I think at some point people thought this is a great way for Black to play for a win, but Ivanchuk just makes this look like White is just much better in this structure. And I remember him commenting in the game in New in Chess and also basically saying so. But no, he's just completely outplaying Gary here. Gary is trying to win with Black and provoke, but I mean, the quality is just not there behind his position or his moves. And this is actually cool, right? You allow him to get the c5 square, but he doesn't really have a knight to exploit it. I mean, at least maybe it's very simple, but still, it's Gary. He's
struggle evaluating such, and to do it to Gary, I think is impressive.
I would look at it's a funny position, right? And then comes the point with a crushing pawn sacrifice, clearing the square and such.
After he safeguarded his whole king side, he still has enough to break through. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean the final position becomes comical.
Look close, yeah.
No, I mean it's just. Well, who has this against Gary? I think no one, right? I mean, it's just a beautiful game. I think was he 21 at the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is. Yeah, it feels like Pillsbury, just that, he lived much longer.
Stuck around very much.
Yeah. So, what to say? Ivanchuk is Ivanchuk, right? And I think he obviously just deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame. Where can be debated.
That's clear. The placing, you could argue either way, depending on how heavily you rate. Yeah. World Championship success.
Championship matters. Also, world number. There was not a point when he was considered the best player in the world, at least not clearly, right? He was always in the conversation, but never made it. I think maybe he was live number one for a day or two. I'm not completely sure.
But it's also hard if you're, Kasparov and then Carlsen are the ones who are number one in your area.
No,
Maybe there was this brief window, but maybe he was a bit too old at that point when it was Vichy, Kramnik, Topalov taking.
I think actually he might have been live number one during Bilbao, because I think also Morozovic was there. There was these guys as well as Magnus was sort of shifting around there, but it was very brief spells. And I think while Morozovic and Ivanchuk might technically have a claim at being number one live, it not in practical terms at least.
Right. No, still.
Yeah.
Impressive career, and bit of a special case, but just look at this game if you have doubts.
Yeah.